Sorry, I would like just the people in the room to take a seat and to invite the session 3 panelists that we have, and I will give the floor to Gavi.
Thanks very much. We've already had session 1 and session 2, which leads nicely into session 3. And Nilo asked at the very beginning of the session, he's very patient about what's the next steps, what the next couple of years look like. You know, possibly is there a next iteration of this project needed? So here we are discussing that question. What needs to happen next for sustainable waste solutions to work in real humanitarian contexts? So we have quite a large panel, and I'll just introduce myself first. My name is Gavin Moroney. I'm from the Irish Bioeconomy Foundation. I've been European project manager there since July 2024, and I have a particular interest. My background's in journalism and sustainable agriculture and rural development, so a particular interest in agriculture. And IBF itself is a network hub on the island of Ireland, trying to lead researchers, connect researchers, academia, policymakers to develop more bio-based solutions. So I'll just introduce my panel here today. We have Clara Casado Cotillo, is Associate Research Professor of the University of Cantabria, Spain, since December 2019, in the research group development of chemical processes and pollutant control. Specifically, her line of research is focused on the development of alternative membrane technology under sustainability criteria for industrial and environmental applications. We have Katerina Panelido. It's a project manager in the BioEast Hub of Czech Republic since March 2025, working on European projects. BioEast Hub is the first national BioEast Hub founded under the BioEast Initiative and the support of the Minister of Agriculture of the Czech Republic to support stakeholder engagement in bioeconomy, facilitate dialogue with policy members, raise awareness on EU calls and opportunities, and transfer good practice of bioeconomy innovations to the BioEast region. We have Etena, who is represented by Cristina Perez Rivero, project manager in industrial biotechnology at Etena, where she designs and coordinates research and development projects focused on circular bioeconomy and waste valorization. I know you have a longer background, but I'm conscious of time. From PIN, we have Marie Schmidova Skalova. She's been with People in Need since 2009, holding different positions across several country programs, including Myanmar, Haiti, Ethiopia, the DRC, HQ. From PA, we have Anna Gorska, who currently works in the Global Programs team at Polish Humanitarian Action as a program development and quality expert. She's over 10 years of experience in the humanitarian aid sector, working in program management and supporting emergency and development projects. And we have, last but not least, Karolina Zablewski from WeLoop, who is the Chief Operating Officer at WeLoop. She's PhD in LCA and life cycle costing and has worked in the field for 15 years. So I suppose to get all through that, what we looked at, and I just took a couple of notes from the previous sessions there. We had session 1 to present the challenges, the insights, the context, you know, the negative impacts of unmanaged waste, but nevertheless, there's still interest there from the communities themselves. We might have a lack of cooperation between actors, might be a lack of infrastructure or formal frameworks to develop or to work with that waste. We need to, and we've already talked about communities that need to see and touch these solutions. So lots of challenges. So this panel, what do we need to do to make this all happen? Not an easy question. So I might start with the academia and from what evidence do you think is strong enough to act on, and where do we still need more research?
About evidence, well, well, the evidence, I think it has been highlighted along these previous sessions today. All of these I have written today to discuss in this session, because, well, as far as we conducted a literature research and reviews several international projects that are reviewing even practices, especially in developing countries. Humanitarian applications reports are very scarce in literature. But there are a few of them that still exist. And I think it was also highlighted in the session 1 or so that there have been these implementations on site sometimes on different technologies or different solutions, but they don't go farther from a specific research project that it ends up and then is not scaled up or pursued because of lack of funding or probably infrastructure or whatever, and it's very complicated. So the first part would be the evidence is there, the technologies and the solutions exist. And one thing is useful of I have learned from Bio4Human is this, that is possible, it's important to put all the stakeholders together, because I believe when we started this project, it was very difficult to understand each other. For us, at least, it was very difficult to understand what the other stakeholders were doing, but then we managed, and then everything became so clear. And we are developing at university the technologies or the solutions, and then when there are some innovative practice in pilot projects, even some investigation lines that went through the work package for scoping exercise. I was commenting with Damian earlier that the investigation line we proposed, that it was the one for the waste conversion of biogas through anaerobic digestion, coupled with a biogas upgrading with, of course, membrane technologies. I have to talk about membranes. It was rejected in the scoping exercise because of the low maturity level or the no commercialization stage they were. But then there are some pilot projects that were working even in the Ecotech fair we visited during the last consortium meeting in Kielce. There was this pilot from the Institute of Energy in Poland that they had this pilot working for fully functioning in a landfill in Poland. So maybe we have to build on the contact with local universities, local stakeholders in the case studies to arrange to obtain data, reliable data on site. So we can feed the inventory, as my colleague Marta mentioned earlier, to fill in the gaps of the inventory that the EcoInvent databases of the literature research cannot fill yet. And then the LCA results are quite valid. And then they can be really useful to secure the funding from different sources, or even bring the technology or the solutions closer to the final beneficiaries or use it. And this, I believe, this is my personal view, that this will increase the social acceptance that has also been mentioned in the previous session, that the beneficiaries didn't trust the bio-based solutions offered to them, but probably it's because of lack of knowledge. So I think we need to build a strong database with real data from the on-site, real taking on-site of the different solutions, because of course I'm talking too much. In the humanitarian settings, they have a lot of experience with the black soldier fly technology and the biogas digestion. And forgive me if I don't talk about the other solutions, because these are the ones we've been working on. But there are different solutions than the 5 kinds of solutions that were scoped from Work Package 4. There were innovative approaches to these solutions that could be, and we studied the possible effect of these approaches regarding the environmental impact, especially. But of course, for the application of the humanitarian settings, we've learned, thanks to PIN and PA colleagues, that it's not so easy as in the Europe or other countries.
So maybe moving on to the humanitarian organizations side of the house, what for you would make a solution realistic or unrealistic in the field?
Oof.
It's a hard question. I think that the problem is that there are so many layers, and to make the solution realistic. And I think we addressed some of them before. But for me, the biggest issue is that it's intertwined across different stakeholders. So even if we as humanitarian actors change something in our procurement system, start using those technologies, then we go back to solid waste management systems that we can, of course, as humanitarian actors support, but the responsibility still lies on community, on the authorities. So then you need to work with them. On the other hand, we have a lot of solutions present in the world, but then sometimes we as humanitarians don't know about them, or they were not tested in this specific context. I think we had a lot of discussions about climate and how climate will affect certain solutions, especially that, for example, packaging looks and transportation looks completely different in Europe and completely different in those two contexts that we were discussing. So there were a lot of things that when we were going deeper and deeper, they showed how complex the matter is. Maybe, Mari, you want to add, or I continue?
Yeah, both. I think I can use this now, thanks. Yeah, I think that we should, if we talk really practically, I think we should start from the most simple solutions, right? Like there are some that we know that they are really home compostable, so we don't need to test whether the industrial composting infrastructure that's in place is enough or not enough. So we can start with those and really try to promote amongst humanitarian actors, like especially those that are doing big shipments such as MSF. I think there are like the mycelium protective material. This is something we can start with. It's, you're just protecting the medicines that they're bringing so it doesn't affect the quality of the product being shipped. And I think those are the easy wins, let's say, that we can start with. It's similar to us as at PIN, we should start really with those solutions that we know that are, let's say, easily, their end of life is easily done in the field, and we can start to replace slowly, step by step, some of the solutions that we are using now. So I think that's the way to go, honestly. And I think what's really important that, yeah, we said it already a million of times, but we are here, like the humanitarian sector is here, and we are really open for different solutions. So if the bio-based sector, addresses us and promotes what they have and how does it work technically, then we can test it if it hasn't been yet tested in the field, and then we can scale up. So yeah.
Thanks. Christine, I'll move on to you from an industry perspective. What needs to be true for these solutions to be produced, supplied, and maintained at scale?
Well, I think we've seen today that it is not really a technological challenge, but it's a systematical challenge. And there are many things that need to come true for this to be scalable and sustainable. And so we were looking both for products, but also for technologies and services. And talking about products, and we've said many of these things, no? But we need to look at feedstocks, the availability for bio-based products. We know that the feedstock sometimes is seasonable, it can be competing with food, it has limitations, so this needs to be addressed. Then looking at the production, we will have to evaluate if local production is the right way to go. But if so, that also creates opportunities inside for jobs, for skills. It can also reduce the logistics and the imports, so it could be a good way to go. For sure, the cost, and we all know that the bio-based solutions are still more expensive than fossil-based counterparts. But maybe we need to change the look. We look at the price, so maybe instead of comparing up from price, we need to consider the full cycle of the product and the waste or the cost that the waste, processing the waste of this material involved. So now we see in Europe that for treating waste, you also have to pay, and that will happen everywhere. So that maybe can be somehow included in the price we look at. And this links with regulation, with procurements, also things that we commented quite a lot today. But sustainability criteria were not very much included in procurement, and that affects the price as well. And if we move then to technologies, I think the infrastructure for sure is key. And for some technologies, we are assuming that we have access to, well, for us, simple things like electricity, water, but that might not be the case in those locations. And the maintenance of the solution also, when we finish with these pilots, someone has to own the solution, to take care, to continue with that work. We need skilled people or people that have been trained to continue that work. So many things have to come true. I think when we also are able to demonstrate that it has a double benefit, that we're not only dealing with waste, but we are creating something else, whether it's a compost, whether it's a gas or fuel or jobs. I think that's very good to reinforce the sense of what we do. And I think now, finally, we are starting in developed countries to see waste as a resource, not as a burden. So I think we need to convey that message also elsewhere.
You mentioned policy and procurement, and this is a question for you, Katarina. From a policy perspective, what changes would you make to make sustainable waste management solutions easier to adopt?
Okay, so I think, okay, by now I think we have established that it's not an issue only for industry, only for policy, or for the sectors like by themselves, and it's more of a collective approach on all those things. So in terms of like procurement, like what comes to mind right now is that we saw the cases where bio-based solutions were not that favorable to be chosen in by grant applicants, because they're not really established in the supply lists. I hope I'm saying correctly, in the supply lists of the humanitarian aid sector, and it makes the choice of using bio-based products less favorable, because it might affect the application from like a small difference in the cost or a bigger difference in the cost. But anyway, it's what I want to conclude with on that is that in terms of procurement, if those lists or solutions, if the solutions are not in those established lists, it's even more difficult for humanitarian aid to choose them and support their choice, because usually the choices are being done based on those pre-established lists. So then in terms of policy, I mean, I think that the policy aspect is relevant in most of the cases, because it can always support and it can always be a barrier in depending on the situation. For example, we were talking about waste management infrastructure, which waste management might be considered in some guidelines or strategies, but it might not be that well enforced, or it might not be possible to be enforced, because it's a different thing to have the policy on something, and then it's different to have the actual implementation and the action. Then another example that was really interesting for me was that in terms of taxation, humanitarian aid imports are not being taxed in many situations. Sometimes, not all the times, but sometimes. Whereas if we are looking in scaling and the local production, those are being taxed as they are. So that's also.
Thanks, Katerina. Carolina, you've heard four different perspectives, and it's complex, and you need a lot of different stakeholders coming together. But you might just give your opinion.
Just to add for all of this, because what we did in the project is that we identified solutions in a specific period that were available. But the bio-based sector is in constant development. It's an emergent technologies. We can see a lot of European projects working on new technologies for bio-based products and so on. And what we have seen, for example, in LCA also, that sometimes the production of this bio-based could be also higher than the fossil due to this energy consumption that the efficiency of the process could not be at still the level of the fossil based. But what I want to say here is that this is only a specific period. So if you want to see the applicability of solutions like tomorrow, maybe we want to keep updated about the technologies because it's evolving. And maybe the assessment that we have done this year, is not the same next year because maybe we have also some new technologies and new efficiencies of the process, and maybe we can find new sources of raw material. For example, when we talked about the waste as raw material, we have seen some yields that are not the same. Maybe in next years we have a better efficiency, and then this solution will be the solution to be applicable. So I think we don't have to stop the project as a real solution for the 10 years, because even next year maybe we have new technologies and new efficiencies. So that's only to keep it in mind that it's only a specific time, and we have to keep it evolving.
Yeah, more work for you then going forward.
For everyone, huh?
I'm just going to open it out to the rest of the panel, just some questions based on our discussion so far, and anyone can take it. But what do you see as the biggest barrier to scaling? Is it evidence, cost, regulation, supply, field acceptance, all of them combined?
I think of course, the short answer is all of them, but I would like to focus mostly on knowledge and understanding between different sectors. So I'm talking mostly from the humanitarian perspective. For me, this project and this consortium gave a lot of insights that we wouldn't be able to obtain easily otherwise. So when it comes to a connection to technical experts, usually it's quite expensive. So it's not something that all the NGOs are able to invest in. And that is why I see huge potential of my organization, but organizations in general, to go in this kind of relationships, because later they can help us to build different policies, different activities within our organizations. Right now, thanks to this project, I already obtained some contacts, and we are trying to add BSF to different activities that we are having. We are also using this to update our procurement policies internally. Of course, those are small steps. It will take time, but it's already starting to give on this small level. And then I really hope that the more we communicate, the better we can work together to really influence the change.
Maybe I will add just to this.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think what's really important is that we are part of networks, like both PAH and us. So we are like member of the French Réseau Environmental Humanitaire and all the clusters and everything. So, I mean, even though you said it's small, that we are changing our policies, I don't think it's so small, because then we can show it. And, you know, we have undergone a greening evaluation by the group WRD, and you know, so it's kind of spreading. So that's again bringing me to the it's like a plea to the bio-based sector to don't be shy to like make some presentation within these networks or, you know, come with solutions actively, because I think the humanitarian sector is interested. It's just we have so many priorities that sometimes you just don't have time to focus on that if someone is not actively, you know, motivating you, or, you know. So that's really important. And I think I wanted, I don't know if it's possible, Gavin, but I wanted to ask, because we have our colleague Julian from DRC who couldn't come, but he's really an expert, and if he wants to add something to this discussion, can we ask him? Yeah. Thanks. I'm not, he should be online. Or you can just continue someone else and then we can come back to Julian. He should hear us. Ah, Julian, do you hear us?
Maybe because
Of course, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for this final event. I think everything I could add here has been said by everyone who was speaking before me. But what I can say from a contextual perspective, is that most of the solutions that were assessed in the Bio4Human project, especially technologies, are feasible, can be feasible. And we have a few examples of technologies that are being implemented in DRC, especially BSF and biogas, but also other bio-based solutions such as packagings, so those produced from PLA, can maybe be possible in the, I'll speak especially about the DRC context, but few things have to be brought together from public sector perspective, academic, and I think in the final recommendations, there have been a few things that have been highlighted that can be feasible, and there are others solutions that needs more assessment, maybe to being piloted or implemented. I think that's all from my part as a contextual contribution. Thank you.
Thanks, Julian. You mentioned there maybe packaging being a solution. To the panel, what other types of solutions could be prioritized right now? Like, what are some maybe low-hanging fruits that could be implemented?
Well, even before thinking of solution, I think we need to address the sorting of the waste. I think that's the key element to enable some kind of valorization. So I think some guidelines of waste sorting would be very beneficial. And we also saw when revising European projects, there was a one from the CBE, I think, called Mixed Matter, that had a modular system where the waste could be sorted in the first place, and then different approaches for valorization were applied to the different fractions. And I think we should start an aim for that to have a suitable separation of waste. And then, well, as I think we all mentioned, solutions that are easy and can be manageable locally, that don't require super high tech, as it can be this packaging that is home compostable to start with. I would also vote for that. The black soldier fly that we saw has been implemented in other African countries. I think those could be some examples.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Just maybe to complete, we have discussed a lot about this during the last meetings. I think when you talk about prioritize something, we need to, again, see the context, because we can prioritize but take into account the environment. We can prioritize for social part. We can prioritize life the cost. If the costs we have seen for some solutions are not that different. I think that's very dependent. So it's also important here when we say prioritize, we have this knowledge or awareness of what you are prioritizing, what is most important for this context. For example, when we talk about local production, we are aiming to increase the social part of this solution because we are increasing knowledge in the local communities. But if the value chain is not also local, we can also ask some questions because, for example, if the raw material is coming from Europe or US, for example, for the solution that is produced locally, we have to analyze it more. And the same if the solution itself is energy consuming for produce, and if the country is fossil-based energy, we need to analyze it's case by case. And I have already talked and I repeat myself, but there is no one solution that fits all contexts, so we have to be case by case. And another point that we have analyzed also is the end of life treatment. If you can have this treatment for the specific solution in this context, because if you cannot, we have to analyze and maybe try to prioritize the implementation of the end of life at the beginning, and then the packaging solution, for example. And it's not a matter of, sometimes it's not only a matter of what is easier. It could be easier, but sometimes it's not feasible. So it's a lot of questions that we have and have to ask ourselves, and the humanitarian organizations have to ask. And that's our part also in this consortium. It's try to give all the questions that they need to ask themselves before asking if they have fundings, if they have time to do it, or so on. We have to ask, is it feasible? Is it good in this context, and so on?
Yeah. Okay, so in order to complete what you have said, and in line with what Carolina is saying and Christina said before, for the end of life technology also rely a lot in the because we didn't model a biodigester, anaerobic biodigester. We just were comparing the 4 biodigesters that were innovative approaches that were scoped in the project. We saw that they were differentiated basically on the type of waste that were fed, or some conditions like the water content, that is the need of drying, that implies more energy consumption, or the post-processing, like some black soldier fly technology systems even send the residue from the black soldier fly to a biodigester. So, and there are in the literature, in the either local or international research literature reports or articles, we have found that even some innovations at lab scale, but not only in Europe, because we also have research papers from Uganda or Ghana or Kenya. There's a lot, and you are all aware of them. So I think that it's important to have a database of the type of waste that is really fed into the end-of-life technologies, in order to have to reduce the uncertainty of the LCA results, so that these LCA results can be used to convince the funders and the beneficiaries and everybody. Right? So we have to work in this knowledge transfer and sharing to build this database, and also contact with local universities. We can help in the contact, because academics in worldwide, we speak the same language in the end. Yeah. So, and this is very important, the sorting, the waste sorting that Christina mentioned, because it's waste collection and sorting, separation, and this is the stage where waste should be characterized. because each of the reactors we analyze had a different type of waste. And if we are relying on the bio-based solutions that are biodegradable to be ended up in these end-of-life developments, we have to know what kind of bio-waste we have to deal with, and if these already existing technologies can address them all. That's what I wanted to say.
Yeah, I don't know if you have the glimpse of understanding how complex it is and how amazing it was for organizations to really listen to technical aspects. And I often have the same feeling that that we need to pilot, but then we hear from different angles that enough piloting, but let's scale up. And when I think about piloting, it's not that we take something that is completely new, but because there are so many variables, piloting means that we go to this specific location with the specific setup, with our specific capacities, and we see what we can do in reality. And yeah, I think that this came many times in our discussions, and I know that NGOs, both humanitarian and development, are hungry for this kind of knowledge exchange and support. So yeah.
I think we have some questions online, but if anyone has any questions from the floor for the panel. Yeah, I'll make my way down.
So hello, Jessica from People in Need. I work in the logistics and procurement department, and it's very interesting for me to see well, all this research and the results of this project. I wanted to know more about the manufacturers and about the big actors. You know, in humanitarian environment or field, we are always obliged to follow the rules that are made on the top. So I wanted to see if you got across them. I am talking about WHO, FAO, UN actors that are the ones that create the rules that we follow, right? I'm talking, you were discussing about packaging of shipments coming from Europe, from, I don't know, other places, Plampinat and this kind of products. And I feel like if you don't talk to them, like very little we can do from humanitarian side, from the mission level when we are buying these big things. So just that, and thank you.
I think I can ask. We should have discussed it, within PIN, but never mind. Yeah, actually, it's a good point, and we did already within the first needs assessment focus on the solid waste management and the problem of it. We did discuss a lot with REC, which is an initiative focused on sustainable packaging, and it's run by the logistic cluster, which is under WFP. So so that was definitely discussed, and they were involved in different stages, consulting the deliverables that we had, and we took their input really seriously and reflected it in our deliverables. Similarly, we talked to Joint Initiative for Packaging. It's now called differently because they shift their focus because they were USAID funded. So there is no conclusion actually, but there is definitely the REC is pushing the global logistic cluster to focus on this, to focus on bio-based, to focus on sustainable solutions. They develop quite a lot of practical materials for humanitarian organizations to use when it comes to waste data about the waste, because we are lacking that, so they have different very practical tools that you could use if you do want to do your waste analysis, for instance. They have a lot of practical materials when you want to when it comes to procurement and some sustainable solutions in procurement. So the initiative is there. They did a big mapping of recycling facilities across the board, so there are different issues. We have it all in our deliverables actually as a source of inspiration. Yeah.
So we do have a couple of questions online, but if there's Are there any other questions from the floor for our panel? Okay, Abby, I might just give you the microphone.
Thanks. Yeah, so one question that came in online. What strategies should be implemented for researching and or maintaining biosolutions in a context of recurring political and security instability, like which characterizes the east of the DRC, when we all know that in such a context, all local and global initiatives for environmental protection are sabotaged by warring parties and even by the population due to the absence of state authority? Here I'm referring to poaching, the use of prohibited chemical pesticides, occupation or exploitation of protected areas, etc.
You want to say something? Maybe
You can. We can ask Julian also.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I can add some, and then we see if Julian has another perspective. Just because it is hard and we will not always succeed, and many times we will fail, doesn't mean that we shouldn't try. And let's be honest, like our knowledge and our attitudes and our practices are not built within one day or one project or 1 year. So we need to work on that, and there will be wars, there will be different humanitarian catastrophes happening around. But still, I think this should be implemented. Of course, we can prioritize some of the approaches to minimize the cost, because also we are talking about money here, and finances are quite important aspect of this job. So I would say that is why also humanitarian actors and NGOs are important, because they can use their experience of working in this kind of environment with different stakeholders and their approach to communities to leverage whatever the technical professionals come up with. But then we also need donors, we need governments of other countries to push this kind of ideas. So that's why we also explained that in policy brief, that on many levels we urge actors to act, because alone we cannot do it.
And I think what's important to say is that we selected two contexts that are quite complicated. So because when we were approached by Andrea, to participate in this call, we really wanted to focus on true humanitarian context and not to take the easy way, because we were thinking that if something can work in those two contexts, that very probably it can work in others.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, if Julian, if you want to add anything, then feel free.
Yeah, thank you. I think there is not a single strategy that can be really, really efficient in such a situation. But I would like, first of all, to mention that still technical departments of the states are still working, some technical department, and it's considering bio-based solution. If we consider imported bio-based solutions, I don't see how the instability could be a barrier here, because a lot of efforts are still being put down in regards to waste management, even if the state is still the state of art of waste management is still very basic. But if we speak about solutions that have to be produced locally or implemented locally, there may be some problems, because the law enforcement is not yet done here. And in this situation, even the private actors that were working in the waste management, waste collection or waste management sector are not fully working, and some have stopped. That could make things even worse or complicated in regards to locally produced solutions. But for imported bio-based solutions, I don't think that could be a problem at all. But I would still mention that one of our stakeholders was implemented biogas in such this difficult situation, and there is nothing bad or worse that happened. But during very unstable period, the lack of supervision could hinder the process or cause some problems. But out of that period, I didn't see something that could really hinder or be like a blockage to the bio-based solutions implementation in DRC, except those one I just raised before. Thank you.
Thank you, Julian. We have another question in the chat from Nikolai, who asks how to simulate R&I to competitive knowledge on academic and business levels. What kind of innovation investments could help through facilitation of EU policy in different programs?
Can you repeat?
Yes. How can you simulate R&I to competitive knowledge on academic and business levels? What kind of innovation investments could help through facilitation of EU policy in different programs?
I can try to answer from my perspective, but as we have seen today, it's more the part of pilots and try to implement new technologies and try to keep track of this evolution of the technologies. But I don't have a perfect answer for this. There are a lot of different tracks that we can have for like research and academia. I don't know if you have any other points, Will.
If I understood the question, is how to introduce this recommendation into UC policy programs or what? I don't know. Yeah, I think I maybe there can be a two-way kind of strategies. Maybe I don't know how would I say the projects that are the project applications to the EU funding or whatever, maybe they should be encouraged some way if they want to get funding to cover some of the issues commented here or to fill in the results of this that we've seen in this project. Yeah. Like regarding the bio-based application in difficult settings, not only in developed countries or peaceful contexts or whatever, or stable communities, but also in other kind of instability. Recently we have seen this instability even in Europe because we all know Ukraine and whatever. For other reasons, maybe the UC policy could also provide some guidelines for the humanitarian projects from the EU. Maybe to include some, I don't know, part of this that they should be encouraged to accept this dialogue we're talking about, or I don't know if
maybe just to complete from a perspective of other sectors. What we have seen today is, for example, at the beginning, the industries were quite afraid of this kind of assessments and sustainability knowledge and so on. But then there are always the first ones that starts to implement things, and then we see that works. Sometimes it doesn't, but it's normal, it's a process. And then when we see that a lot of industries start to implement everything, we see policies coming. So maybe we are still at the beginning, but if you don't try to implement things we won't see like maybe some easiest tools to assess this kind of solutions to try to know which ones implement. But I think this will come, and this will help also the policies to be created and sustain this kind of initiative. I think this is the process. I can compare it with the construction sector that we have seen. For example, in France, there is now a regulation implemented. We have to have this LCA, and that this now is coming with the CPR from the European Commission that is harmonizing everything. So it's coming part by part, but we are here to give the first step, and we hope that the others will come.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not an expert in that field at all, but like anything new and novel takes time. You know, I'm from the bioeconomy background, and a couple of years ago in Ireland, that was almost unheard of. But now it's already starting to develop. More and more people are aware of the concept, and I think the same with this. They always say the first one through the wall gets bloody, but you can build on that and build on that momentum. I'm just conscious of time, and I'm going to give you each 1 minute to answer this final question as a kind of a takeaway from the overall day. And that question is one action we should take in the next 12 to 24 months. So I'll just give you a minute each. So we'll start with you, Anna.
Well, I think from me, for me personally and my organization is to engage more in this kind of initiatives and to create more contacts with sectors that could bring knowledge and solutions to our daily work. Yeah.
So maybe from an industrial perspective, we need to find those front runners that take the lead and can go on site and implement the solution and test it and gather this data from monitor and have this data available for the next Bio4Human having the right data to analyze the solution. So to have this monitoring in a live period of time, of course, counting with the local players there and also build this trust for the new bio-based solutions inside.
Yeah, and I think we are here to test what needs to be tested, but we are also here to connect the bio-based sector with local actors because we know them, we map them, we work with them daily, and and we, like me personally, I am the advisor for environmental mainstreaming, so I definitely want the Philippines to straighten this, focus more on solid waste management, and ideally, test some bio-based solutions.
So for me, I guess I can only echo what's been said, that in all the sessions, I think that it's really important to support even more evidence to have a stronger case in the humanitarian sector, in the bio-based solutions in humanitarian sector. So try to have like more opportunities, more funding, more support with policy to have those opportunities to pilot, to scale up, to establish those solutions.
From my side, just general perspective, I think what we need to do is to spread knowledge from all the sides, all the value chain, not only from the technical side, but also the needs from each community, also from the knowledge from the fundings, existing fundings, the knowledge from everywhere, and we need to connect it. I don't know how, but we need to try, because otherwise the information is missing, but people have this information somewhere, and we need to connect this to have the global scope of what we need to do the next steps.
Thank you. I think I'm going to repeat some of these things. From my part, I will say that we shouldn't let die all this inflow that has come from today of this year's work. And in agreement with what Carolina just said, we have to build on the knowledge transfer and the data sharing to build on reliable information for everyone, because I think information, well, I come from university, information and education is the base of our societies, any society. And also, pues, try to create or join interdisciplinary networking possibilities or forums that enable this knowledge transfer. This is the way to solve the barrier misunderstanding we have seen in the past or even in the present, and demonstrate that some of the technologies or the solutions that are already here that can be scaled up or secure funding or secure the social acceptance of the people who are going to benefit from there. And of course, as Gavin just said, is bioeconomy solutions is really very recently accepted in Europe. So now we want to believe the people in DRC and South Sudan to think of waste as a resource and not only as a problem, but it's still seen as a problem in Europe yet. So I think, I mean, when I said about we need to contact local universities or people like that, it's important because we have gone through that and we can not that help because it's patronizing. I don't like that, but sharing experiences, and I think maybe speed up the process. Well, because it's been very long for us, but they don't have the time.
Just conscious of time, and I know there might be some other questions or remarks online and from the floor, but if you want to speak with the guys here outside, you can do so afterwards. So I just want to thank the project partners here for all their work and providing their honest insights today.
Thank you.
Thank you.